cheers very much. I know it's kind of later than we'd say, but thank you very much for doing this tonight. I really, really appreciate it, mate.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And just for I don't want to cover. I know obviously, last year you did some stuff with Brian or whatever after I think when Volume Two had come out. But just for everybody else who hasn't heard, just um, obviously you've written a lot of plays and screenplays and stuff. But what is your background in that? How did you get into that side of things?
Well, I suppose I was one of those kids who kind of knew exactly what I wanted to be ever since I can remember.
Yeah,
Uh, so like I was the kid who got more excited about the new stationery than a new machine gun. So I was just always ready to be a writer. So I suppose when the opportunity came, I was kind of with a local theatre company because that was the most accessible thing. You could walk into a theatre company and you could write something and it could be performed that evening if you wanted.
yeah,
So there was no long wait. It wasn't like sending it off to a publisher and waiting 2 years or sending it to a film company and probably never hearing. This was very immediate. So I was about 17 or 18 when I did that locally. I set up my own theatre company and we started kind of doing a lot of plays. I'm talking about like 3 or 4 original productions every year, full-length plays written by me, directed by me, produced by me, starring local actors,
yeah,
and I really learned my craft there. And from there, then some of the bigger theatres in Ireland heard about me, and off I went on my Murray journey off to the likes of the Abbey in Dublin, the National Theatre of Ireland, and the Gay School of Acting, and Druid, and so all these
yeah.
big companies took me under their wing.
And obviously you must have somewhere along the line you had an interest in of some degree in pro wrestling.
Yeah, ever since I was a kid, I'm probably a 30-year fan now, and you'll know this. It's not easy to be a fan on
Yeah,
this side, especially back, just around the time I think Sky was coming on the scene. I got a video from the UK just before Sky came,
yeah,
and I was just fascinated with this new thing. And over the course of some interviews for these books, I've actually figured out where it comes from. That wrestling is so universal. I used to love Popeye, cartoon Popeye. Popeye is structured like a wrestling match, if you think about it. He's the babyface. Brutus is the heel. Brutus comes in, kind of bullies him around. Popeye takes a beating. Then he falls out of the boat or whatever, and then he takes his spinach for the big comeback. And then he gets his win. And so there was something very familiar in wrestling to me, even though at that point I'd never seen wrestling before. It was kind of like the universal struggle. That, of course, if you keep a keen eye now, that everything is structured like wrestling.
yeah.
Everything. That's kind of where I got my fascination with wrestling. And for the last 30 years, then I've been on board, fully in, even through that awful eras. I stayed attached on the Pug and all those Mantaur. I remained a fan. And then when I got the opportunity to marry both of them together, both my love of writing and my love of wrestling, to be honest, I thought maybe 2 people would like it. I thought, and usually your family would play what you write or whatever, but like my family hate wrestling, so that wasn't
Yeah.
so I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by the reception that these books have gotten.
That sort of interests me. Obviously, I mean, I do a bit of writing and plays and so on and acting myself as well. But what got you to move away to an extent from doing plays to actually making the conscious decision to write the books?
Well, for me, it was I had done 17 plays. I was going to write number 18, and I had a pretty good theatre company who were going to commission it, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like there was no danger in it for me anymore. There was, the thoughts of them, even because you don't know this, Gary. I mean, even when you sign with a theatre company, you have to wait 2 years for
Yeah,
rehearsals to start. You rehearse for 3 or 4 weeks, it goes on for a week or two, and then that's it.
yeah.
You go again. And while it was hugely exciting, and I continued to love it, I just at that point in my life, I didn't. After writing 17 plays, I just didn't have number 80 in me.
Yeah.
And what I really wanted to do was I obviously wanted to continue writing. So it was okay. I could write a screenplay again, or I could write, songs, and then I thought, well, I would really like to see if I have a novel in me. And then when I decided, well, what would I write about? I like crime. I like, Sopranos. I like Boardwalk Empire. I like those types of programs. And like I've said a couple of times before, what really sparked it was a Jim Ross story where, he said that he was at one of the annual conventions for the NWA, and he was in a bathroom stall, and he heard the other bosses outside talking about killing this young upstart Vince McMahon. And I thought to myself, this is it. This is exactly what I needed. That was the spark, And I got to thank Jim Ross for that. I mean, he didn't know that there was some, writer in Wexford in Ireland listening to him making that comment. But that was the comment that I needed to put all my pieces together.
No, it's interesting. I think it was last year. I was in Bangor, and Owen Colfer and some other guys were there talking about the process of writing, just for yourself and just for everyone who's listening to it. Like, how long, including sort of research, obviously on it, how long did it take you to go from the concept of, yeah, I want to write the book, to volume one actually coming out?
It was about a 2 year process. It was about a year of dedicated research and then another year of the actual writing of it. Um, but obviously, I had more or less 30 years before that research period as well.
Yeah.
And what I found was that I collected just a mountain of research. And then I had to say, okay, I have all this now. Now, how do I simplify this down? Because I obviously wanted wrestling fans on board, but I also wanted these to be crime novels in and of their own standing.
Yeah.
That they just so happen to be set in the professional wrestling world. So that's what I did. I mean, the process was to collect way more than I'd ever need, and then to start throwing 95% of that away. Because I just needed to make sure that, and I think well, at this stage, I'm sure now that I've succeeded in that. The likes of, we said, William Regal has said that he was in awe of the research.
Yeah.
Jim Ross has come on board and said the same thing. Mick Foley, and so on and so on. I'm pretty confident I got that part right, and then the readership that these novels have gotten leads me to believe that I got the story and the character part right as well.
I mean, you talked there about the research. Obviously, um, as you've said before, when I was listening to the interview with Brian from last year, where some of the names of the characters in the book, or some of the stuff that goes on, are little just wee things for the pro wrestling fan to kind of really get their teeth into and appreciate. But are any of the characters specifically um, like linked to any of the real life promoters at the time, or is it total fiction, if you know what I mean, in that respect?
I suppose that the first novel was kind of the first novel was born out of, I suppose, the obvious place for me to start was I didn't know any of these promoters.
Yeah.
And now people on Twitter and everything think that that I'm somewhere, I have friends in the wrestling business. I'm very lucky to have kind of cordial relationships with a lot of people I grew up watching.
Yes.
But when I wrote the first novel, I didn't know anybody. Nobody in the wrestling business would give me the time of day. So I can honestly put my hand on my heart and say that the characters in the books, while I always made sure to kind of feed the wrestling fan volume 3 is the very same. All the characters and so on are totally fictional. Just simply because I had no into the wrestling business to
Yeah.
find out what was so and so really like. Or
I mean, I found interesting when I was reading, and this sounds terrible. I mean, I'm a teacher by profession, a primary school teacher, and I hate reading. And I feel like a hypocrite telling the kids, especially the boys, you need to read more, and then I don't. But but when I was reading them, when I was reading volume one, and I'll not for anyone who hasn't read it yet. The twist at the end of it, I didn't see coming, and I got it and was like, oh, and that's why straight away I went into volume two. But was that a conscious decision to leave the door open to write a second one, or had the plan always been to do the trilogy?
the plan was always to do a trilogy, yeah. I'm going to be upfront with you and everybody else who hears or sees this interview. The plan was for three, but since then the novels have been optioned and are in development now as a TV series in the US.
Yeah,
Uh, I knew what the end of book three was going to be before I started book one. I have stuck to that end, but there's a crack in the door left open as well. I'd happily, if these three were the only three, then I would be happy with that because that'd be mission accomplished for me.
yeah,
But what changed in the middle was, the want for more, and I just have to be conscious of that as well. That if we are lucky enough to get a TV series and they want season 3, season 4, season 5, I just have to make sure that that is doable.
yeah. Funny, I was going to ask, obviously, because you've had plays commissioned on, obviously, here and across the Atlantic in the States, and you've had screenplays and stuff that, as you said, have kind of not quite disappeared into the abyss, but get caught up in the whole cycle of being commissioned. Just, I
Yeah.
mean, how close is this? Obviously, say the rights were bought or whatever. How close is this to being commissioned as a series, do you think?
Well, what I can say is that they are attaching talent and money right now.
Okay.
So this is as far as I've ever gone.
Yeah.
Like you said, I've signed deals for movie contracts before, and I was a lot more naive then. I was 19 at the time and 21 respectively, and for me, what I wanted to write was I wanted to write the best crime novels that I could,
Yeah.
and the whole kind of TV stuff and all was genuinely surprised me. I was just happy that people were reading and liking the novels. So if they do come off, and everybody on the team seems very, very confident, they're actually going to attach it, a person in the know. I can't really say much, Gary.
Yeah, no, appreciate it.
Somebody, who's well in this business this week, in fact. So what I like about this particular project is that it's building on itself week on week.
Yeah.
So rather than it running out of steam, which these things tend to do, this thing is building up steam.
Well, that's good. It's good to hear that. Now,
Yeah.
as far as the books, I found it interesting from a writing perspective in volume two that there was some repetition of sorts. I mean, there were entire sections of dialogue, and then there were issues. Was that? Um, I was interested whether that was if someone hadn't read the first book to go, here's what's happened, or was it just to give it more context, to give it more teeth, if you know what I mean?
That was the plan. You'll see as well when Volume 3 comes out. The plan was I was wanting to write a wrestling book written like a wrestling angle.
Yeah,
And what I mean by that is, what I did in Volume 1 is I gave the readers a scenario. And it was a little very finite, definite, this is what happened. And then in Volume 2, I wanted to make the reader think, oh, actually, if you pull the camera back a little bit, there was somebody else watching what was going on, and here's what actually happened.
yeah,
And then in Volume 3, then we compound all of that, we clean all that up, and we show you definitively who, why, what, and where. because I always like this stuff of the real person behind the curtain is this person.
Yeah, yeah.
You thought it was that person. So I meant to answer your question that it was a construct. It was very evident, I suppose, in volume two. But what I wanted to do was, and maybe this was silliness on my part, is I hope that the readership would stay with me because in volume one I was planting all the seeds. In volume two, then you can start to see them spring up, as in, oh, this happened in volume one. Hang on a second, here's another look at it.
Yeah.
And then I hope the readership then continues with me into volume three, where you'll see actually this was planned all along. There's small little stuff happening in volume one that has huge repercussions in volume three.
When I was at the crime writer stuff last year, say Owen was there, or the writer stuff, Owen was there, and Colin Bateman and stuff was there, and I was asking Owen a question that I'll be interested to see what you say as well. It might be slightly different. How difficult did you find it to get them published, or has the fact that the way you can do them kind of online? I know other people who've done books and stuff, and with Amazon, and Amazon just print them as people order them, whatever. Has that found it easier for you to do it yourself, or what way does that work?
Well, to start off, I was lucky in that I had a couple of offers to take these on from agents. But I just knew the lay of the land when the first agent said to me, "These are fantastic novels. We love these novels. Is there any chance you could take the wrestling out of them?"
Yeah.
And an alarm bell started ringing because what some in the book industry want to do is they want to make sure that you're not so different that you're creating a whole new category.
Yeah.
The advice I had at the start as I was moving from being a playwright into a novelist was, write the novel with the detective. Do 4 or 5 of those novels. You're going to make up your own private detective, and he's going to have his own set of issues and his own damsel in distress. And once you do that, then you can do your passion project. And I said, I have no interest in that. If I'm going to leave playwright and I want to write the book I want to write now, not in 10 years' time. So what I decided to do was, because I had a good handle on the internet and social media, and obviously being a wrestling fan myself, I knew where my core audience was, whereas a print house mightn't necessarily know where they were. So I knew exactly how to get to people directly, and I also knew my way around kind of the more technical side of stuff. So I decided, well, I'm going to self-publish the first book and see how that goes. Again, I've been quite lucky in that since that has happened, I've had a couple of offers from agents wanting to take the novels on, and I just don't think the time is right. I want to now finish out the third novel, and we'll see what happens with the TV series, and then we'll have another look.
I mean, I knew from the novels, obviously, when Mick was over here on his tour, and at that point I was just in my ignorance finding out about the books, and I knew you were there because he mentioned you and stuff, and the agent had been reading them, I think, on the way across. I was going to say, how important is it for you to have? I mean, when you look at the site and so on, you have the testimonials from some big names in the industry saying about what they think about them as books, or as you say, as the research and so on. Was it important to you to have that, or is that just more of the icing on the cake, if you know what I mean?
I thought it would be important for me to get one of those.
Yeah.
Because everyone at the start, I couldn't give these novels away because it was like a Twilight fan fiction thing.
Yeah.
As this guy just kind of writing these kind of in his mother's basement. I was trying to tell everybody, no, actually, I've been a professional writer now for nearly 15 years. And people didn't care. They didn't want to hear that. So. Yeah. I actually spent about a year chasing Mick Foley around on Twitter. Very gently, maybe 4 or 5 tweets over that year, And he very generously offered then at the end to read the novel. And when he did, he was genuinely blown away by it. And the great thing was, he didn't expect to be. He too thought it was going to be some sort of fan fiction.
Yeah.
And so when he see the concept that was taken, and he was the guy who coined the phrase, the Godfather with suplexes, then he he was really happy then to really get behind it, put his name on it. Yeah, cut a couple of videos, send him what you liked it, give me quotes, and then of course once you have one name, I think it might have been William Regal who come on next, and then after I got two names, then the door was open. I mean, right now the novels are with Natalia Neidhart,
Yeah.
Bret Hart, Steve Austin, Sheamus, Joey Styles, and I can only presume that these people are wanting these books and reading these books because they see their fellow professionals have said that these are legit, these are the real
Yeah.
thing, these should be read.
What obviously, as you say, you have Volume 3 is coming out in October. What does the future hold for you after that? Is it more of a, as you say, a wait and see to see about the series, or are you going to go back to writing more plays, or what do you think you're going to be at?
I'd say probably the next thing I'll do is write a screenplay.
Okay.
I think that's what I'll do next. If Nottingham's with the TV series, I've been very lucky in that I've made a lot of contacts
Yeah.
in Los Angeles. I was lucky enough they flew me over there, and if nothing else, I met three or four people who are interested in what else have I got, and so it's kind of for the first time in my life, I know now if I write a screenplay, that it will be at least read,
Yeah.
by people who you would want reading it. So I think I'm not going to waste that opportunity, so I'm going to jump on that next.
Well, if they want to cast a 38-year-old Irish teacher who's who's now in between agents, let's say, um, um, just as we sort of pull towards the end of it, I'm interested in even just a brief part of how all of a sudden, as I say, a young guy from Wexford all of a sudden has now become, as you say, being flown out and having meetings in LA. Just how did that come about? It seems like, as you said, it seems like the sort of thing people dream about, but yet all of a sudden it's happening.
Yeah, and the way it happened as well is the stuff of dreams. The first piece of fan mail I got was off a guy called Lavi Margolin, who is, I've come to know him, he's just an absolute gentleman. He's like ourselves, he reads the Observer a lot. And he sent me an email after he read Volume 1, and it was the first, like I said, fan email or happy reader email that I got. After he read Volume 2, then he sent me another email saying that he thought that this one was even better than the first one. And he has a friend who's a movie producer, and would I mind if he passed the novel on to her? Now, at that stage, I had someone from Los Angeles interested anyway, so that's when I started to think there's something in these novels, because now I had kind of two producers who were wanting to option these novels. And, I'm glad I made the decision I made. Like I said, the person who was optioned it, and hopefully we can start naming people soon. But the person who optioned it has done a tremendous job in pushing this project forward and getting people attached and, getting reputable big names. I mean, she has only had the option on the books for maybe 6 or 7 months now, and we already have a pilot script, and I was already over there. We've already discussed how we do season 1 and so on and so on. So I think it's a phenomenal amount of work.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it was a reader who loved the novels, who knew somebody who might be able to do something with them, and from there, and I've never even met this reader yet, and like I said to him, like, he could be after changing my life. So Volume 3 is going to be his name is going to be on Volume 3.
Well, as I say, as I've said to you before, and it's not blowing smoke by any stretch, when I got them both earlier on the summer, and I intended to take them a holiday, but when I came home and they were here, I had the first one finished within 2 days, and I got to the end of it and was like, I need to read the second one. It was like straight away back into it. It had me genuinely completely hooked. And so for anybody who's listening to this or whatever, who hasn't read them, they need to. In that regards, do you want to say plug the website or your Twitter, so on, just to direct people in the right way for them?
Well, first of all, thanks for saying that you were interested in novels for a while, and then I was actually a little bit nervous when you went to read them because we had kind of batted back and forward on Twitter so
Yeah.
much. I was thinking, I can't live up to this hype now. So when you tweeted me and said that you really liked them, I was delighted, which I am now. So again, thanks for picking them up and thanks for reading them.
No problem.
If people want to find me, usually on Twitter, so it's at tweet Paul O'Brien. But if you want to get everything, so that's my Twitter address and all everything, you can just go to paulobrien.info, and that's my website, and everything is there.
Well, as I say, I genuinely have really enjoyed them, and it sounds really geeky, and I know it coming from my background of say doing the writing and the acting as well, but it sounds really geeky to say I'm kind of counting down the days of going, okay, end of October, here we go, to actually get into it. I genuinely I can't wait. It's almost I can feel like less of a hypocrite now in school. When I encourage the boys to read, I can say I read 3 books over the summer. In fact, four. I read one of Graham's one of his the history of WWE books as well. I was like, I have it. I was like, that's like 4 books over the summer. It's not like me. Um, but no, as I say, no, I really appreciate you giving me your time this evening. It's been really really cool and really interesting. So thank you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Anytime. And thank you for taking the time to interview me.